Good evening, guys. Hope everyone's doing good. Just a quick update here on TSM, AMD, and I think QQQ now that it filled the gap in after hours. Pretty much all this resulted from NVIDIA, right? I feel like the whole market was pretty much holding their breath waiting for this report. Obviously, they had a double beat, right? And they guided forward very well. Thing is, though, right? We've seen this 3 or 4 times now. And the more times that you have these large breakouts, right, with expectations being exceeded, those breakouts are going to become less and less because inventory has already been collected. There's only a finite amount of supply, right? So it can only go up so much. And you have to think, right? We had like a phase one breakout, phase two. I think this is phase four now. And it really obviously showed, right, that it didn't have much juice left in the tank. It actually sold in after hours. And that's pretty much why I've been really fixated on TSM. I think TSM has a lot more room in the tank. AMD for sure. And then QQQ. Obviously, if for just a general index and kind of looking at tech as a whole, I think there's a lot of opportunity still, right? NVIDIA might present itself tomorrow in pre-market. I'll take a look tomorrow morning to see if we find anything, just depending on where it's opening. But still pretty much a swing market for me, guys, and I've talked about this. It's going to be very boring. It's going to feel like fishing. You're going to see a lot of opportunities come and go with other stocks, other charts, flow that comes in. And that's okay, right? I mean, I have no issue with that. If this can trade to 185 on TSM, it's a 100 or a 230% win, and I'm okay just waiting for that really. And obviously, I have AMD, just 3 contracts on that, but I want to make TSM kind of my primary focus, and I've talked about that. That's probably the best chart in my opinion, and one of the only. Oh, I shouldn't say only, but one of the main semiconductors with the largest market cap that isn't like necessarily broken, right? Some of these other charts, like MEU, in my opinion, kind of broke. AMD is kind of on that cusp, right? It still looks somewhat good, but overall, TSM definitely looks the best. NVIDIA kind of fell apart as well, and I think we could see TSM kind of outperform here now. And I want to just jump into this chart really quickly. Let's turn off the EMAs, but essentially, I guess the only way to really put this is I'm bullish. Anything in this 170 or 165 to 167.97, we can just round that to 168. I'm going to be looking to buy this dip, right? However you guys want to draw it. I know some people are kind of looking at this as like a flag. Some people or whatever it may be. I don't care. I'm just level to level, and I really just want to see it hold this old progression gap here, right? We've got a nice little bundle here of our EMAs relatively in this relatively close to this range. We have the 50 MA as well, just in this general range as well. And as long as we can kind of hold this support here, and I talked about this too, if we can pull this out, I mean, there's a clear area, right, where we have support. This was the higher low, clear resistance, right, that now turned support, and we're now holding it here at 165. If we can continue to just hold here, even through a sell-off on NVIDIA and somewhat, I wouldn't even say it's bad news, but just the rest of the semis kind of selling off in tandem, and this being able to not only sell off but regain into 165. And if we can hold here, right, and just kind of form out over a couple days, or even tomorrow, I might take another ad. Currently, I have 20 contracts. I'd be happy to take this ad, right? This is going to be a very, very lucrative opportunity, in my opinion, to continue to buy the dip, right? Obviously, I think 165, if it can kind of progressively make its way up, reclaim this 168 spot, I think that's huge. And then, of course, we want to see this start making some serious progress up towards these highs around 175. 175 is going to for sure be the spot to crack, right? 175 is essentially just this gap, right? This is like the hidden gap, if you will, instead of the daily 175.22, and that's right where it rejected from. But once we can get above 175, I think that this is clear skies, right? I think we obviously can make our way up into that 185 spot very, very easy. But yeah, I think this is still the area to do it. As long as we can open above 165, I'm going to be looking to buy the dip tomorrow. Same thing, right? It's just going to be the October contracts. If you guys haven't taken the position, I think November. Obviously, I always side with buying more time being the best option. So if you want to do Novembers, they're going to be a little bit pricier. We'll see where they end up opening. I think everything right now is like $400 to $500, right? If you kind of go into October, November. But yeah, great opportunity here just to kind of get more size on this. I was literally a small position. This is a tiny amount with the 20 contracts. I might be able to get this to like 40 or 50, which would be a decent sized position at that point. I think full size, I'd probably go 100 contracts. But yeah, this is definitely something that's on my radar tomorrow to just kind of add this dip. And yeah, TSM primary focus. I've expressed this a lot. This is probably my favorite chart, and I think this is what's going to be able to kind of lead semis moving forward. Last little bit of cheese here. If you guys didn't see, right? I mean, if we kind of take a look at this on the weekly, pretty clearly a flag, right? I mean, we had the two harmonic breakout. I wouldn't even say this is a breakout. I think this was the breakout here and the real big week for it that really started the uptrend again. And the fact that we are now technically at a lower high range, right? Because this is your high, lower high here. Clearly we were rejected. The fact that we didn't see a high volume sell bar right here, right, as you guys can see with the arrow depicted, kind of shows that it was mitigated. We did have a nice long lower wick, and the following week, right, which is currently this week, even lower volume, we're very well mitigated right at this support here. Remember the weekly high here, the weekly higher low here. We saw those previous progression gaps that I mentioned on the daily. Just a very well mitigated chart, right? I think worst case scenario, if this does snap 165, I'll probably stop out of these contracts and just look for a re-entry down here, right? This would be a really nice pivot as well. 158 to 153, which is this previous weekly high, tied down into these weekly lows, right? If we kind of zoom out a little bit, this is that old progression gap here, right, as well as here. Okay, so this would probably be the next best spot. Kind of looking at this as well, I can just kind of eyeball it. Yeah, be right around your kind of your discounted zone as well. It's not the perfect 618 tap or your golden zone retracement, but it'll be right in the discounted zone in this general range, right, from 153 to 158. But yeah, just wanted to mention on the weekly as well. Just kind of toss this in there. The weekly looks fantastic. As long as we can see some mitigation, we already have a recovery back above 165 on Robinhood. So I mean, take that with a grain of salt. We'll see where we open tomorrow. We do have some data. I think we have, I think it's jobless claims, right, if I'm not wrong, or unemployment. We'll see here in a second. Tomorrow's Thursday, right? Yeah, so GDP, and I think that's all we have. And then Friday PCE. Okay, so nothing super crazy, but we do have some data to kind of end out this week that could potentially reverse this on Thursday, Friday, or at least reclaim levels, right? Have sellers kind of get trapped, and especially those that went short as a sympathy to Nvidia, or just the broad SMH that try to short SMH. I think we can see like a relief bounce or a relief kind of cover, right, going into some of those data events. But yeah, very interesting chart here on TSM. Okay, and then QQQ was another big one. Remember, we took the 480s back here on the break of 448 and pretty much held them all the way to 480, right? I mean, there was a couple trims that happened in this, I think it was up here, right, as we made our way back into these daily equal lows. But for the most part, right, everything was held into the gap here, which was at 480 to like 474. I wish I would have had more. If you guys remember, right, this was just pretty much a vertical lockout rally. So unless you kind of like knew, which it's unfortunate that we did know that this was going to happen, but there was really no higher low to kind of purchase on and then have viable risk, in my opinion. So I didn't have the size I wanted to, and I think a lot of people had the same issue in the Discord. But now, right, we're kind of getting the higher low, right? We're getting that pullback that we want before we reach the 497 target, which would be the close up here in this gap right around these highs. And this is the opportunity, right? And I think a lot of people are going to miss this one too, because this is what always happens, if I'm being honest. People will see pullbacks and they'll fall victim to what happens on Twitter, other people's bias or sentiment, or you'll see news, and that's honestly, I think that's how it's designed. That's why trading's so hard. I try not to let that stuff bother me. Same way when I knew that this was all an accumulation that occurred in the 3 lower low fashion, I tried not to let it get to my head. I knew exactly what was going to happen, and look what happened to me, right? I only had 20 contracts when I was supposed to have like 400, right? And it happens, guys. It really does happen. So if you miss it, it's a learning opportunity. But yeah, I think this is it, right? I think this is going to pull back into 465.11. Ideally, mitigation is there, right, in terms of sell pressure being not too high. We did see a little bit of a higher volume bar here, but you got to note that a lot of the volume also came off of this wick here near end of day with that cover going into the Nvidia earnings, right? You're typically going to see that Right, like last hour, last 2 hours, you're going to see a short cover where people start to get out of the speculative positions they're in. That provides a little relief, and you can see that clearly here on this chart, right? If we go to the hourly as well, I mean, a lot of that volume kind of came as soon as it tapped down into this spot here, right? You guys can see hit 468. A lot of that volume came from this candle and this candle, right? Obviously, the first morning as well, or the first 2 hours of the morning, this hourly bar was red. But look at the wick on that, right? Another large buyer that came off of that. So a lot of this is actually buy pressure, right? It's actually kind of funny once you start to investigate the chart a little bit more on your smaller time frames. But now what ended up happening was NVIDIA reported, kind of locked people out that couldn't get in the last 15 minutes of the close. If you guys didn't know, you can do that with like QQQ, SPY, etc. You can get in on the last 15, but it really locked those people out. After that first 15-minute bar, and then it sold down, right? Went and filled the gap. So I think this is the opportunity here. I think if we can just open around 465, maybe like even if we open under a little bit tomorrow morning, let's say we open like this, just going to wait for a reclaim above that. Might start a position, and if we can get a daily close above, I'll definitely size in a little bit. Nothing too extreme, right? I would save my extreme size in for a break and hold back above 468.38, but this is kind of the same exact thing as we saw before, where I like to start stuff once the gap fills. If it breaks back above and holds the top of the gap, very similar to our progression gap system that I have, I'll add some more size up above 468. But this is good to see, right? We did fill the 465 gap. Now it's up to bulls to be able to put in that higher low and really start to see the mitigation of selling, right? Make sure selling doesn't overtake the buying, and then we start to see some good I guess range created away from this gap, right? We want to be able to see price really create some separation, pull back, and every pullback needs to be healthy, well mitigated. Obviously, we want to see it diverging, and then I think we can start to see that move towards 488. Yeah, I mean, this was the big one, right? NVIDIA kind of was the thing that I was thinking was going to pull us back. Next thing that we have, which is really going to be the big catalyst, is going to be FOMC coming up here middle of September, right around that September 20th OPEX. So we do have to be aware of our positioning going into that. I think that's what's going to kind of send us up, right? And I know a lot of people are always like, oh man, like interest rate cuts are always bad. That's not true. If you guys go back to like the last two that we've done, or three, the market's rallied actually quite a bit, 12%, 15%. I think one was as high as like 17% over a span of 2 to 3 weeks. We had really large moves. The only thing is, after those really large moves, right, we've seen a correction that's lasted a lot longer than that and was a little bit more extreme, to the point where we had 25. I don't remember the exact percentages on the pullbacks, but yes, we do have pullbacks or not pullbacks, corrections after them. But initially, once the rate cuts are announced, we do have a nice little rally that occurs off of that. So, yeah, I think 465 is the spot. Worst case scenario, right? You have to think logically. This will probably pull back down into these equal daily lows right around here, right? Just kind of this general area. So if we end up kind of gapping down underneath 465, just scratch what I said. We're going to look for like something like this, right? Similar thing, right? Almost identical. And that would be, let me get the exact level for you guys, like 454, sorry. So that would be that spot, and it would just be the same exact thing, right? We would look for it to hold 454. I would take the trade off of that, wait for it to break out, kind of base near these closes on these dailies and the low from Wednesday, and just start to look for like hourly higher lows being made. And then of course, right, we'd like to see it push back up. Likely it'll, reject the progression gap low here. If it gives like a flag on the daily or some kind of hourly flag, I would size in again there. And then same thing, right? It would kind of broadly break above, base this, and then go, okay? So it just depends where we open tomorrow, but QQQ is now on the menu. This is probably the final rally that I think back up into that 496 or 500 spot. And I'm not going to miss it, right? I muted my mic. I'm not going to miss this one. So if you guys want to join me, feel free. If you guys don't, it's, it is what it is. There's a lot of other charts that still look good. I think I'm just going to avoid them, though. I mean, this is the opportunity cost I'm willing to accept. I do have that PanW contract. This chart still looks really good. What else? Shop looks pretty good. This is exactly what I wanted. kind of the pullback off of this gap fill here down into the gap that was recently made around August 14th, right? I don't think it's going to pull down any further than this. If it starts to pull down any further, I do think we would likely retest this old resistance here around 68, which is that midpoint through the gap as well. If it does that, maybe I'll keep my eyes on this. I actually might set an alert right around this spot if it does. But yeah, I mean, this could be a good chart, but I'm okay missing these things, guys. That's kind of the whole point of, like, you know, just concentrating on a select few. I'd rather have my eggs all in one basket than have my eggs everywhere, right? Maybe not in terms of my portfolio and like what I'm holding long term. I do want to diversify. But when I'm trading, right, I want to have a clear system. I want to have things that I'm looking for that meet specific criteria and that I put full-size trades on, right? And that I'm not afraid of. That way I can capitalize and have full buying power, and I can reap the most out of these charts, right? So I might avoid everything. I might just go TSM, QQQ is my main two. Obviously, I do have 3 contracts on AMD still. This one's a little bit tricky. I don't know how to go about this, right? I mean, I can be confused too, guys. Sometimes I don't know. I think I could like YOLO this if I want, and not really pay attention and get away with it. We'll see. We'll see what we end up doing. But, you know, I did initially have us trying to hold above 153.49. Thank God I told everyone, and I was like, okay, I don't think I'm going to size into this unless we break above 153.49. We never really did, right? We had this day here where we closed above. Remember, I took the trade here. I think it was on this day as we broke under. So we did get this nice little pop here on Monday where we ended up hitting that trend line. I think it was up like 23% or something like that. Oh, and I also took it back here, right? If you guys remember, I think I took it on Monday. This is when I went to Vegas. So I ended up catching this day here, and then we caught this big move out on Tuesday, and then me and my girlfriend got into that fight, and yeah, I mean, this was the rest of this was history. But I'm still holding on to 3 contracts. I just don't know. I really don't know where the bounce is going to be on this one. EMAs are starting, you know, kind of just in this general area again. It could pull down to 141.16, and I think it actually did on the 15, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, so it's like flirting right with this level. Thing is, man, if this breaks 141.16, I think this thing's gonna come down further. I really do think that this is gonna trade back down to this bar here. You'd almost view this as like your buy side liquidity, right? Where you have a large move that really started off of this candle here, and this was that capitulation candle that occurred from the Iran news, right? So you have to think a big move came from this. This could be kind of like your buy side sweep that the market could look for. If it does break 141, I don't want to say I'm bearish, but I'd probably close out the 3 contracts I have, and I might be looking to short pops, right? Where this can bounce back to that, and I would actually be looking to trade this down to 116. Why do I have 116 marked? I've had this marked for a little bit, and this was also a reason that I was kind of hesitant on AMD being my favorite chart over TSM. I guess I'll just show you guys. It's back here. This is from Monday, August 5th, right? We do have a dark pull print to the downside there. I'll show you guys really quickly just to kind of validate it as well. Right around here, right? And this is clear cut. This is a print. This also matched on Tradie Ticks as well, right? So it's a very apparent level. Someone's bidding this down pretty harshly down to 116. So yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to keep an open mind that AMD might still be in some distribution, right? And if this is in, or not, it is in distribution, which already happened. The redistribution was here, right? And this could just be a lower high, buy side sweep here, right? And then it reaccumulates again, right? I do think that AMD ultimately is going to be a bullish chart. It might just take a little bit longer. And you just, yeah, I mean, if it sells under 141, guys, I don't think there's anything to argue about. I think this is kind of inevitable. I think it is going to trade down to that spot, come down to 116, and then, you know, maybe it bounces off this, right? Maybe we can see a bounce, and like I said, there could be a reaccumulation here that it forms out. You'd want to see a footprint candle at the lows. Obviously, this is kind of like your what you'd be looking for, a footprint candle like that, but not like this, right? This is a bearish footprint candle. Obviously, it didn't really start. It didn't have, you know, the bullish reversal candle that you're typically looking for. It didn't start a move up, right? It kind of started a move down. So just a way different look. And obviously, if we start to sell down, this is what I would look for: a nice and large footprint candle, a good bullish reversal as well on the daily and or weekly. And yeah, I mean, I think there could be a campaign that's getting built down here. In terms of contracts, I mean, I don't know. You might need to look towards December, January, February of 2025. These things do take some time. I've talked about this, and if it's going to have a big move back up to 175, you kind of want them to pull down, right? You want those contracts to get cheaper and be able to have a system built around it in terms of structure being built out, having a good viable risk, understanding the VPA and it aligning with not only that, but the price action that you're seeing, the price development that's being kind of built around these lows. So I won't fight it if it does break 141.16. I will close those out, and I have no issue with that. But yeah, TSM probably and QQQ are probably going to be the forefront of my watch lists. Now the NVIDIA is out of the way. I mean, we kind of have clear skies, in my opinion, until FOMC. So I might start doing a little bit more day trading here, which I think will be a good thing for some of you guys. I know a lot of you guys don't like swing trading, even though you say you do, right? And it's peaceful. Some people, I think, like to have the constant stress, and yeah, I get it. I mean, I understand. It's nice to have quick money and stuff like that, but market, in my opinion, just kind of been building positions. It's been pretty crazy. But what else? What else? I mean, Rivian too. I guess Rivian could be another big one. I rejected that trend line pretty big today, but it's still on this SOS, so might keep my eyes on that. Oh yeah, NVIDIA. Right, NVIDIA obviously sold down, not quite to where I thought it would. Like 116 is the general range that I had, which was down here, right? Which was that old progression gap. There's a lot of defense here, retested it here, broke down, broke out above, had a really nice wick that kind of closed back above that started a new move above. And we're right there, I'm pretty sure. So like, if this can hold 116, guys, I think there could be a day trade here, right? I think 116 could give a pathway back up for like I said, a day trade up to like 120. So 19.95, just round that to 120. What would that be, right? Well, that would be a simple move off of this progression gap here, back up towards this old zone here, right? This was the gap from the 23rd of July to the 24th, right? So you might get some kind of move like this, and then maybe it sells down again. Either way, right, I'm not going to short supports, so we'll see where this ends up opening tomorrow. But I might toss on, honestly, like an 0830, so a weekly contract for 120 calls. I actually might do that. So, but everything else, though, I mean, is longer dated and stuff that I'm willing to build out. I have no issue doing that. I do have a contract as well of FSLR. I guess we might as well do an update here. I would have liked to have seen this hold, right? This is 232.14 level. We actually ended up closing underneath that. But if we take a look here at the EMAs, like everything's kind of in alignment for this to continue to go up still. So I did hold this, right? And as usual, kind of what I had in terms of what my plan was on AMD. If this kind of give a nice little shuffle back above that spot, 232, I'll probably grab like 3 or 4 more contracts. Keep in mind these contracts are a little expensive, which is why I kind of tentatively put it in there like, hey, I'm grabbing one. You guys don't have to follow. It's not something like an alert. I was explicitly saying like, hey guys, this is the one. But if this can get above, right, 232.14, I do think this has a really big opportunity to trade back towards this previous support here on the daily around 253. So those 250 calls of interest, I'm in the 0920, so September 20th, 250 Cs. These could pay really well, right? I think it's a good opportunity. So just keep this on watch, guys. Solar, man, the theme has been pretty hot. This chart looks pretty productive. So just something I still want to keep on everybody's radar. But yeah, I'm going to get out of here. I think I've been talking for too long. TSM, QQQ at the forefront of the watch list. AMD kind of tentatively on the back end, right? It could flip bearish. Do I feel like shorting it? I don't know. We'll see. But definitely need to close this out if we do break out or break underneath that one. I think it's 131 or 141, right? I think this will start to move down to 120 and then ultimately 116. It might be worth like a head short, right? Where we're long TSM heavy, long QQQ heavy, and you can have like AMD short, because remember, these names do kind of trade inverse to each other. We saw it a lot, right? NVIDIA was going on a crazy run, and AMD was redistributing, right? I talked about that, and it sold off pretty drastically with NVIDIA keeping its gains and making new highs. This could be a pretty similar thing, right? Where this trades to buy side, sweeps out anybody that bought that low. We could see other names that obviously are having money rotated into. I mean, you got to think too, SMCI is getting hit. If AMD sells, NVIDIA sells, something's going to have money kind of push into it. Could be Intel, could be TSM. But yeah, just want to put that out there. Apple as well, right? This is such an annoying chart, man. Let me catch my breath. This is like weird. I don't know how else to put it. I think like the risk should have been here, if I'm being completely honest, because that was probably... Oh, maybe not. Yeah, maybe it should stay here. Yeah, like 225. Ah, wait, hold on. I don't know. I really don't know what I should have had as risk now that I look at this. I mean, this looks a little bit better, but dude, this is so weird, guys. Like it's not creating range off of this, if you guys know what I mean. Like it's not like shooting out to the gap. And it's giving these weird signs that it is gonna sell. So I don't know what to do with these cons, dude. I really don't know what to do. Yeah, I really don't know what to do. Like I said, if this starts to sell, guys, and we actually start getting some freaking nice movement back down to like, because if this sells, man, you got to think this is gonna sell pretty aggressively with how. Like this, dude, this is anemic. There's no volume up here, right? I mean, remember we talked about like these campaigns don't have to have volume that really move it up, but there was no prior, like it wasn't the same as QQQ. We didn't see footprint candles coming in. There weren't lower low sweeps that were coming in that were being soaked up. This was just one bar here, and then the distribution that obviously occurred here. I think this candle was a big distribution candle as well. The inventory is just, it's got to be flatlined up here. So if this does sell, right, we kind of break under whatever I said risk would be, either 224.50 or like 225, whatever, right? You guys kind of get the point. It's either off this high or this high. This thing could sell, man. This thing could really move down to that 214.62 spot. And then from there, right, I think like, dude, I don't know, bro. You could see some nasty stuff down to like 200. Apple just does not look good. I just don't know. I don't know if I want to size in. I really don't know what to do. I really don't know. And I have the November contracts, guys, and I wish I had like a definitive answer, like, oh, this is what it's gonna do. I don't know with this one. I don't know. So I think I'm just gonna keep holding, right? Because if this does pay out, man, even 4 contracts, I've already done them. Like we talked about this math-wise. Like this will be, because we're looking for a move down to 187, 185. This would be over like a 400% trade, 500% trade. And I think that's worth the drawdown of like, 50% on the 4 contracts I have. I'm okay with that. Like shit, I don't care. But yeah, I mean, obviously if we start to see some slippage and some kind of footprint candle that comes in, right, some kind of bearish candle that comes in with similar volume to this here, fuck, man, I'll be all in. I'll probably put in like 30, 40 cons, right? And I think that would be the risk at that point. If we can get that candle, I'd risk that high and a daily bar over that. But as of right now, this is still pretty speculative because it's just been low volume melting up, obviously, through our risk. I'm 90% sure we had the weekly candle close above, didn't we? Yeah, we've had 2. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, just wanted to talk about this one really quickly as well. But I'll get you guys out of here. It's been about 20 minutes on this. Obviously, I have the TSM edit as well, so probably like 25, 30 minutes of, kind of me just jambling on. But yeah, things should speed up now, and that's kind of the hopes here, making our way into the September FOMC and OPEC. So I'll chat with you guys tomorrow, and yeah, just trade safe. Even if we do take NVIDIA tomorrow, don't do anything crazy. It's kind of, the point of options, making a little go a long way. So if we take NVIDIA tomorrow on the IV crush, just be safe.